Activity. During my satanic training, we had a class called Minor Disruptions and Psychological Erosion. Activity. Our instructor said, you don't need to destroy someone's life to weaken them spiritually. Activity. You just need to frustrate them constantly, small losses, daily annoyances, unexplained disruptions. Activity. One of the most effective minor disruptions we deploy is the missing sock operation. Activity. I thought he was being metaphorical. He wasn't. Activity. He explained that socks represent pairing, order, and completion. When you lose one sock, activity, you're left with incomplete completion. Activity. And incomplete completion creates a low-level spiritual frequency of frustration, disorder, and lack. Activity. That frequency, repeated weekly across millions of households, creates a collective atmosphere of irritation that makes people more susceptible to anger, activity, impatience, and spiritual weakness. For 12 years, activity, I participated in operations designed to cause these minor unexplainable losses. Socks, keys, pens, activity, remote controls not to destroy lives, but to keep people perpetually frustrated, distracted, activity, and spiritually off balance. Tonight, I'm exposing why you always lose one sock. And more importantly, activity, how to stop it from happening. Activity. My name is Michael, and I served in the Satanic Order across North America and parts of Europe from 2009 to 2021. Activity. During those years, my assignment wasn't dramatic spiritual warfare. It was subtle psychological erosion. Activity. I was trained to create constant low-level disruptions in people's lives that seemed random, but were actually carefully calculated. Activity. The goal wasn't to break people. Activity. The goal was to keep them perpetually irritated, so they would be too distracted and spiritually drained to fulfill their purpose. Activity. Let me explain the philosophy behind this operation. In the kingdom of darkness, activity, we understood that not every attack needs to be obvious. In fact, activity, the most effective attacks are the ones people don't even recognize as attacks. Activity. If a Christian suddenly loses their job, gets into a car accident, or faces a major crisis, activity, they know to pray. They recognize it as spiritual warfare. They fight back. Activity. But if a Christian constantly loses small items, experiences minor inconveniences, activity, and deals with daily frustrations that seem like bad luck, they don't pray. They just get annoyed. Activity. And chronic annoyance is spiritually corrosive. Activity. The missing sock operation is one of the oldest and most effective tactics in this category. Activity. Here's how it works. Socks in the spiritual realm represent more than just clothing. Activity. They represent foundation and pairing. You wear them first before any other clothing. Activity. They touch the ground. They carry you through your day. Activity. Spiritually, they symbolize stability and partnership. When both socks are present, you have completeness, activity. But when one sock goes missing, you're left with an unpaired foundation. And that incompletion, activity, though it seems minor, creates a spiritual frequency in your home. Activity. Every time you open your sock drawer and see that lonely, unpaired sock, activity, you feel a tiny flash of frustration. You think, where did the other one go? You search, activity. You blame the washing machine, you blame your spouse, you blame yourself, but you never find it, activity. And that unresolved frustration sits in your spirit like a small stone in your shoe. Activity. One stone isn't enough to stop you from walking, but 100 stones over time will make walking unbearable. Activity. That's the strategy, not one major blow, but 1,000 tiny cuts. In our training, activity, we learn to create these disruptions through distraction. We didn't physically take the sock. Activity. We created a moment of inattention, a loud noise, a sudden thought, a phone ringing, a child crying. Activity. Right when the person was transferring laundry from the washer to the dryer. Activity. We would trigger a distraction. In that split second, the sock would fall behind the machine. Activity. Get stuck in a corner or somehow separate from the load. The person wouldn't notice. Activity. They'd finish the task, fold the laundry, and only later realize one sock was missing. Activity. I was assigned to monitor several households, and I observed this pattern repeatedly. Activity. One family in particular stands out. A Christian couple with 2 young children. Activity. Every Sunday they attended church faithfully. Every evening they prayed together. Activity. But throughout the week, small things kept going wrong. The husband constantly lost his keys. Activity. The wife couldn't find her phone. And every single week, socks went missing one at a time. Never both. Activity. Always one. Over the course of a year, they accumulated a drawer full of unpaired socks. Activity. And though they didn't realize it, that drawer became a physical representation of disorder in their home. Activity. The frustration from these small losses started affecting their interactions. Activity. The husband would snap at the wife for misplacing things. Activity. The wife would feel overwhelmed and disorganized. The children picked up on the tension. Activity. Arguments increased. Not about anything serious, just constant bickering over small annoyances. Activity. Their prayer life shortened because they were too tired from daily frustrations. Activity. Their patience with each other wore thin, and all of it started with missing socks. Now, activity. Let me explain why it's always one sock and never both. If both socks disappeared. Activity. You would immediately know something was wrong. You'd throw away the pair and move on. Activity. But when only one disappears, you keep the other one. You hope it will turn up. Activity. You convince yourself it's somewhere in the house. And every time you see that single sock. Activity. It reminds you of something unresolved, something incomplete, something frustrating. Activity. That unresolved feeling is what we were targeting. Activity. Because unresolved frustration creates spiritual stagnation. Activity. The missing sock isn't the only item we targeted. Keys were another major one. Activity. People lose their keys at the exact moment they're running late, not when they have extra time. Activity. When they're already stressed. That compounding frustration creates a spiritual atmosphere of chaos. Activity. Pens disappear right when someone needs to write something important. Activity. Remote controls vanish when someone finally sits down to relax. Each loss seems random. Activity. But collectively they create a pattern of disorder that weakens spiritual focus and drains emotional energy. Activity. But there were households we couldn't affect. And studying them taught me how to break this cycle. Activity. The families who were immune to these minor disruptions all had one thing in common: activity. They practiced gratitude and order as spiritual disciplines. They didn't just pray when things went wrong. Activity. They prayed over their homes, their belongings, and their daily routines. Activity. They thanked God for small things. Activity. They maintained physical order in their homes as an act of worship. And that intentional gratitude and order created a spiritual atmosphere where our minor disruptions couldn't take root. Activity. I remember one family in particular, a single mother with 3 children. By all accounts, activity. Her life should have been chaotic, but every time I tried to create a disruption, it failed. Activity. Her keys never went missing. Her socks stayed paired. Her home felt spiritually organized. Activity. Even when it was physically messy. Activity. I later discovered that every morning she walked through her home and prayed a simple prayer. Father, activity. I thank you for order. I thank you for everything in this home. Let nothing be lost that belongs here. Activity. Let everything serve its purpose. Activity. That daily prayer of gratitude and order neutralized every operation I tried to launch. So, activity. How do you stop losing socks and other small items? First, activity. Recognize that constant minor losses are not normal. If you're always losing things, activity. It's not just bad luck or disorganization. It's a spiritual pattern that needs to be broken. Activity. Pray specifically over your belongings. Say, Father, I thank you for everything you've given me. Activity. I declare that nothing in this home will be lost, misplaced, or stolen. Activity. I cover my belongings with the blood of Jesus. Let order reign in this house. Second, activity. Organize your sock drawer as an act of spiritual warfare. I know that sounds strange, but it works. Activity. Take all your unpaired socks and either find their matches or throw them away. Activity. Don't keep incomplete pairs. That physical act of restoring order sends a spiritual message. Activity. You're saying I will not tolerate incompletion in my home. Chaos is not welcome here. I choose order. Activity. That declaration shifts the atmosphere. Third, pray before you do laundry. It sounds small, activity, but it's effective. Before you put clothes in the washer, pray, Father, protect every item in this load. Activity. Let nothing be lost or damaged. When you transfer from washer to dryer, pause and check. Don't rush. Activity. Distraction is the entry point for these disruptions. When you stay present and intentional, the disruption can't occur. Fourth, practice gratitude for small things. Every time you find your keys, activity, thank God. Every time you complete a load of laundry without losing anything, acknowledge it. Activity, gratitude creates a spiritual frequency that repels frustration. And when frustration can't take root, activity, the enemy loses his foothold. Fifth, if you do lose something, don't spiral into frustration. Stop. Pray. Activity. Ask God to help you find it. I've seen people pray for lost socks and find them in the strangest places. Activity. Behind the dryer, inside the pillowcase, stuck to the inside of another piece of clothing. Why? Activity. Because when you invite God into the small things, He shows up. Let me share a testimony. Activity. After my deliverance, I spoke at the church about these minor disruptions. Activity. A woman approached me afterward and said, I lose something every single day. My keys, my phone, activity. My glasses, I'm constantly frustrated, activity. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I told her what I'm telling you now. That week, activity. She started praying over her belongings every morning. She organized her home intentionally, activity. She practiced gratitude for small things. Within 2 weeks, she hadn't lost a single item, activity. She sent me a message that said, activity. I didn't realize how much spiritual warfare was happening in the mundane parts of my life, activity. But now I see it, and now I'm fighting back. The enemy doesn't always attack with sickness, poverty, activity, or tragedy. Sometimes he attacks with missing socks, lost keys, activity, and daily irritations because he knows that small frustrations, repeated constantly, will wear you down faster than one major crisis, activity. But when you recognize the pattern, when you pray intentionally over the small things, activity, and when you choose gratitude over frustration, you dismantle the entire operation, activity. You take back spiritual authority over your home, and suddenly the socks stop disappearing. Activity. The keys stay where you put them, and peace replaces chaos. Your life is made up of small moments, activity, and the enemy knows that if he can steal your peace in those small moments, activity, he can prevent you from walking in your purpose during the big ones. Don't let him guard your peace, activity. Pray over the mundane, activity. Choose gratitude and watch how the atmosphere of your entire home shifts when you refuse to let frustration take root, activity. Father, pray for every person hearing this message, activity. Open their eyes to the minor disruptions they've been experiencing, activity. Teach them to see the spiritual warfare hidden in daily frustrations, activity. I break every operation designed to create disorder in their homes. I declare that nothing will be lost, activity, misplaced, or stolen. Let order, peace, and gratitude fill their homes. Let their socks stay paired, activity. Their keys stay found, and their spirits stay joyful. No weapon formed against them, activity. Not even minor annoyances shall prosper in Jesus' mighty name.